That's a long time ago. Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Today I'm going to be talking about the role of harmony in music. So when most people think about why they're making music, they usually talk about like lyrics or melody or groove or even bass line. But a lot of people don't say harmony as much. And I feel like that's a shame because harmony is like one of my favorite parts of music. And I guess today I'm going to explain to you like some of the roles of harmony, how it works, and just like, I guess, hopefully you'll gain a greater appreciation for it after this. So let's go to the very basics. So our tuning system that we use in most Western music is called equal temperament. Don't worry if that's a big word, but oh my god. Hello? Okay, so it basically means we take an octave. You guys know what an octave is? Okay, so if you don't know what an octave is, let me just explain. Okay, so rhetorical question, sorry. An octave is, I mean, if you think of it in musical terms, it's two notes with the same name, like C and C. But if you think of it in scientific terms, it's notes that whose frequencies are a power of 2 away from each other. So if I take this note and I play an octave above it, that's 2 times, and I play another one, that's 4 times. If I go lower, it's half. And the reason for this is because this tuning system we use, we split the octave into 12 equally spaced steps. And these are called half steps. This may sound like something we take for granted, but in other tuning systems, the notes are not equally spaced apart. So that will give rise to some weird stuff. But yeah. Okay, so now that we're done with that. So now, this is an interval. So an interval is when you have more than 2 notes that are played together. So we have 1 and 1, that's called unison. Then we have a half step, which we just mentioned is a 12th of an octave. And then, yeah, can you hold it? Then we have a whole step, third, major third, so on and so forth. And then we have our octave, and then after that we also have more, but they're not as important. So yeah, we'll just skip over that for now. And then, now that we know about intervals, we can build off of that into chords. So chords are when you have 3 or more notes that are played together, like this, or like this, or like it can be anything. But the most basic chords called triads, like you might recognize them. They sound pretty universal, but these are actually built off of stacking thirds together. So like a minor third and major third, those are 3 and 4 semitones respectively. And so this is a minor third, right? But if I add a major third on top of it, I get this chord, and that's how the basic triads like major, minor, diminished, augmented are all built. And then if we add another third on top of that, major or minor, we get 7th chords. And then you can just keep going, you can add more unrelated notes. And yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's get back into a little more of the science behind this. So, have you guys, okay, this is an actual question. Have you guys heard of harmonics? Like overtone series? Okay, so for those of you who haven't, if you think of music as frequency, harmonics are the notes that we hear higher than the bass frequency. So like this note, you'll see it has a big frequency bump right there, but you'll also see it has a bunch of other smaller ones, right, up higher. And so those are called harmonics if their frequency is composed of integer multiples of the bass frequency. So if I have an A440 like this, you'll notice that I have a bunch of other frequencies. One of them is actually the A an octave above, because that's 2 times, which is an integer multiple of this. And then another one would be E, the 5th, because that is 3 times the frequency of this, and then so on and so forth. So, and then if you have, if you have sounds that are not integer multiples of the base frequency, those are called inharmonics. And those are actually present in a lot of sounds that sound very metallic and don't sound very pure, because the harmonics are at weird number ratios and our ear doesn't think those sound good. Okay, so why am I talking about this? It's because it's related to how we perceive consonance and dissonance. So our human ears, we perceive dissonance as when harmonics, those higher parts of the music, it's when they line up or don't line up. So if I have like this in an octave, change this sound, sorry. So if I have if I play a note and a note of octave above it, it sounds very pure, but at the same time doesn't sound very interesting, because they're just reinforcing their own harmonics instead of adding new ones that are interesting. And dissonance comes from when those harmonics line up. Like when I said these 2 notes. So these, if I play something that's slightly off, that'll sound really dissonant because they're so close, yet they're so far. But if I play something within the harmonic series that I mentioned, like a 5th or the 3rd, it sounds good because the harmonics are really close to lining up. That's why we like major chords so much, because the 5th, the octave, and the 3rd, they line up with the upper harmonics there, and they're really close. So yeah, but I feel like in our culture's connotation, dissonance is a bad thing. A lot of times, dissonance, oh, that's dissonant because we watch a movie and they play dissonant music, a monster comes or something. But when used well, I think dissonance can be actually very beautiful. Obviously, you can't just stick in dissonance for the sake of dissonance, but you have to use it carefully. So if I play you a song with 2 different sets of chords, you'll see the difference this creates. Okay, so if I play the first one, so nice and all, but what if I told you we can enhance that by adding a chord like this? Or even like that? Out of context, you're like, why would you even add those? Those sound kind of ugly. But if you use them carefully, you'll see, yeah, obviously, so this, it's related to my next point, which is tension and release. So music plays with our expectations. We hear something very dissonant, and we want it really badly to go on to the next chord. We want it to release. And harmony is one of the biggest ways that music plays with tension and release. That's why there's things called a cadence. A cadence is when you create something that has a resolving motion. And it's not just harmony either. This tension and release pattern exists everywhere, even in speech. So you notice that pause was kind of awkward, and you wanted me to finish the sentence. That's tension and release. That's one example. Okay. So, and about harmony and melody. So back to melody, the star of the show. Everyone loves melody, but so yeah, harmony and melody obviously go hand in hand. Melody can imply chords like that. So this is out of key note, that really implies that we have to play certain chords with it. And I guess harmony also does backup melody, and it also gives melody context. So you can think of it like melodies like a character in a movie, and you can look at them, you can see their facial expressions, but without like the surrounding like setting, like where is it taking place, or like the color, the cinematography, like without all of that, it kind of falls apart. So like if you have someone crying in a living room versus someone crying in a garage, those two feel very different because of context. So similarly, harmony can really give your melody a different context. And okay, so on to my next topic, which is chord functions. So each chord in a chord progression can have a certain function, like reason why it's there, because these play into how tension and release works. So there's some basic categories, like tonic, subdominant, dominant, whatever. You've probably heard of these if you have like classical music theory. So tonic is kind of like home, like the chord you're most familiar with, the chord that sounds the most released, these tenths, so like this. And then subdominant is like home away from home, like when you're in college and you have dorm and you have friends, but it's not home, super home. And then, see, like if I play these two chords, I can't just stop on that chord, right? Because even though it doesn't sound as resolved, you want to go home. And then dominant is the really tense one that is begging for resolution. It's like being at the airport. You don't want to be there. So it's like, so if I play that, like, you're like, oh, don't stop, go, keep going. So like, it's begging for a release. So, those are, and then, yeah. And then there's the next point, which is chords as texture. So sometimes chords don't even have a harmonic role or function. They're there to enhance like the feeling and like boost your imagination. Like, does it feel rough? Does it feel smooth? Does it feel magical or subdued? So here's an example. We can analyze this a little. So this is from Spirited Away by Joe Hisaishi. He's very gifted. So I'm gonna only talk about the first 4 chords. So you'll notice he starts off with this chord. It's kind of a more familiar chord to get listeners into it. But then after that, he moves on to something a little more alien by adding fourths in the right hand. So if you see up the top of the score, he has a voicing that looks like this. So this is a bunch of stacked fourths. It creates kind of a mystical atmosphere because you don't find like more than 2 of these, or let alone 1 a lot in normal chords we play. So like a major chord like this, right? So this contains 1/4 right here. We have another 4th. It sounds kind of unresolved and kind of like ambiguous. So by using these 4ths up here, he's creating like a texture that feels like mystical and magical. And then he plays that down again. And then the last chord is just all 4ths. So it's like, oh, now you're really into that magical place. So technically you could say this is a B minor chord because it contains like B, D, F sharp, A, C sharp. But he's definitely not using it as B minor chord. He's using it as more of like a chord that contextualizes the magicalness of the moment. That makes any sense? So yeah, that's an example of chords as texture. And yeah, I guess I've only touched the beginning, but I hope I was able to share with you guys a bit of why harmony is so special.